Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is J Money here, and I'm bringing you guys a deck profile today regarding the tournament I just came from on Friday. Actually, it was Friday night, and I've been meaning to make this yesterday, but I had a lot of stuff on my plate yesterday. But anyway, this is the first tournament I ended up playing in the new format, and I wanted to play World Chalice, but, I was thinking, I want to dust off some old decks, and I just want to have fun, because new format, it doesn't need to be all that serious, and I don't know why, but for some reason, I decided to play Burning Abyss, and, weirdly enough, and it's even more surprising, is I won the entire tournament, and I went completely undefeated, and I only went again into Game 3 one time the entire tournament, and shockingly enough, it was in the last match against an Altergeist player. I don't know how the Altergeist player managed to make it all the way to me, but, we went into Game 3, and it was a close game. We went into time, and Barbar just says I win all the games when I go into time, so... But anyway, it's been a year and a half since I even played Burning Abyss. I never even looked up any of the combos and all of that stuff that you could even use post Master Rule 4. And so I didn't play a single Link monster because I figured, any Link monster that's not a Burning Abyss is just going to blow up the BA monsters. And so I don't even know if I was playing a subpar build or if it was just tech choices I was playing. But, I thought to play Burning Abyss because I made a good meta call in regards to the format, and since a lot of decks, people wanted to play decks that played a lot of trap cards, Burning Abyss was naturally good against any trap-heavy deck because they just outgrind any and every trap-based deck, because for every monster that you deal with, you have to use 2 trap cards because of all the floating and everything that comes along with it. But this is a very weird and very subpar build. I mean, as most people may see it as such because I'm playing a lot of older cards, but apparently it's tried and true, and I only went into Game 3 one time, and pendulums weren't even really all that difficult. I mean, yeah, it was pretty challenging, but for some reason the Altergeist player was more challenging than the pendulum player. But anyway, let's go and get started. We obviously play 3 Skarm. You don't play any less than 3 or something's wrong with your deck. 1 Graph, 1 Seer. It's just standard pieces. We have 3 Farfas because it's Farfa. Farfas really help get Electromite just off the board, and then on the end phase, Electromite would steal a main monster zone, and it would be a little bit difficult to pendulum summon for more than one from the extra deck with Electromite in the, not in the extra monster zone, which is actually pretty good. I didn't realize that until I was going, progressing through the match, and noticing that little by little. But 2 Calcavs. The Calcavs actually saw a lot of use, simply because of, there's quite a few back row heavy decks I ended up going against, a Pendulum and a Trickstar included. I didn't see any spirals, but the Calcav put in a lot of work. And Alec, it's just another name. I only used this effect about twice maybe. 1 Limbic, 1 Barbar, 1 Rubik, and the last one we got Cogna, because I'm playing the older build, which actually really worked out for me in this tournament. We play 2 Rhinos because I only own 2, actually. I don't even know if I'll play the 3rd. I mean, I didn't miss it. I didn't, there was never a time where I just wish I had a 3rd Rhino, but, that could easily change. 1 Tour Guide, of course, because it's Tour Guide. However, if it gets ashed, I mean, that's a little problem, but, it's still worth it. 1 Crank Crane, I wanted to play 3, but I didn't know where my other ones were, and this really came in a lot for me, especially when we're in time. because I would just summon barbars in attack position because you don't have to summon it in defense and negates the effects, and I can do damage and all that good stuff. And you know, it would really come in for me, and I actually honestly wish I had more. You know, it was basically a tour guide for the graveyard, and it made it to where I could have other things on the board like break swords and Beatrice and stuff, and not really have the BAs blow up. So the Crane was actually good. And so, you know, I slapped this deck together, really, and I only found one Crane, and so I just said, you know what, whatever, I'll throw it in. But that's it for the monsters. For the spells, we got the one Good and Evil, because again, we're playing the old build. The Good and Evil, actually, it'll, if it stays in the graveyard, you can banish it from the grave, toss a BA to the grave, and add a Burning Abyss spell or trap. And so, you know, it's good. 3 Allure. It's actually lost me more games and actually have screwed me over more times than actually helped me, really. I might cut it. I don't know if it's because I wasn't playing enough Burning Abyss monsters to really warrant the allures. But, you know, a lot of times I would actually open like 1 to 2 Burning Abyss max, and then I'll play Allure and not draw another Burning Abyss. And or I would draw 2 Burning Abyss and one of them, and it just, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Allure, really. 2 Twin Twisters, because I only own 2, and I never really saw myself missing the 3rd one. Whenever it was there when I needed it, I didn't really draw it too much, which I guess is pretty good. But against Pendulums, it was actually kind of a blowout in a sense. But, you know, against other back row heavy decks, it also did its job. Especially against the Ultrageist player. The Twin Twisters actually put in a lot of work against the Ultrageist player. But, you got 1 Foolish, because Foolish becomes any BA. 1 Dark Hole, because, you know, it's a spell. BAs don't really care about getting themselves blown up, they just float. Raigeki, because it's Raigeki, and, you know, you're not going to always win the die roll. 1 Monster Reborn, and 1 Soul Charge for the spell cards. I only saw both of these 1 time each during the tournament. You know, they did their job. They weren't like excellent, but, you know, it's whatever. But, you know, now on to the all of the win conditions, i.e. the trap cards. You had 3 Solemn Strikes. The Solemn Strikes put in a lot of work. I saw Warning a lot, probably because it's ultimate. Every time you get an ultimate Warning, you'll see it every time. And Warning put in work, and the new addition to almost a lot of our decks is Solemn Judgment. It did its job fantastically well. I would generally only save Judgment for spell and traps that I can't deal with. I wouldn't really Judgment any monsters. I only Judgmented 1 monster. And that was a Pendulum summon, and it was pretty worth it. And the MVPs of the whole tournament is 3 Torrential Tributes, because your opponent can't establish anything and keep anything established if Torrential is just running around at 3. And so when your opponent performs any, like, every time my opponent would perform a Pendulum summon, and then I would just wait until they activate Harmonizing, summon their last monster, and then flip over Torrential, and they really don't have anything, and, you know, and then I'll just blow them out on the end phase for some of these other cards. Now, the best cards in the deck were the 2 Fire Lakes and the 2 Travelers. I don't know why these cards are still incredibly good, and I don't know why other Burning Abyss players are not playing these cards. I don't know, it's because people just prefer to play a ton of hand traps and floodgates, but, you know, a lot of times I don't end up going first, and so floodgates like Anti-Spell and Mistake don't really do their job if you don't win the die roll. But these cards right here, especially Traveler. Traveler was probably the best blowout card in the entire tournament, because every time my opponents would overcommit and I flip Torrential, I would always have a material under Dante. If I see Torrential and Traveler, or if I search Traveler with Good and Evil and I have Torrential set, I will save the good Burning Abyss, like the Graph or the Seer, under the Dante and not detach it, and I would literally wait until it's time to screw over my opponent by flipping over Torrential and so I can trigger the graph and trigger the Sir and all that stuff. I blow them out, and then I end phase flip Traveler and summon 3 to 4 Burning Abyss, one being a Dante and one being a Seer or a Graph, and I just win the game. Every time you resolve Traveler for 3, you just win. It's literally an instant win because your opponent can't keep up with all the monsters you just revived. Not only that, but you probably blew them out with Fire Lake already, blowing up 3 back row or blowing up 3 monsters and all that. And so now they have to spend another turn to try to recover, but you've already recovered because you flipped Traveler. And Traveler's nuts. Like, I've had people actually Judgment Traveler because they saw that I've sent 4 monsters to the graveyard. I would have like 2 BAs on the board and a Dante with a material, and I would either Torrential them or they would flip Torrential when I'm going off, and I would end phase Traveler, and they would have no choice but to Judgment it, because if they don't, they lose. Fire Lake, however, is won me a lot of heavy back row games, and it actually won me a game against Pendulums because I would just blow up. I would just wait for them to go for the Pendulum summon and blow up everything except for the one Harmonizing and the one Oath Dragon they would just summon out of the deck. And so now they're just stuck, and they have to make another Electromite, and, you know, their plays really stop there. You know, once they use all their Electromite effects, they sit on that and an Astrograph Sorcerer, and that's it. You know? And so, the Fire Lake has come in very, very hot. Again, I just don't understand why Burning Abyss players don't use it, but it's whatever. 3 Dante. Oh yeah, by the way, my extra deck is very, very lackluster, simply because, again, I'm not playing any Link monsters, because I thought that, you know, until we get Cherubini, Link monsters are pretty dead because BAs will blow themselves up. But so I was playing with an 11 card extra deck, and half of the extra deck I didn't even use. So we had 3 Dantes, the 1 Beatrice. I made this a lot, and I never got to resolve her other effect to summon Virgil or Dante from the extra deck, because the 2 times I did resolve it, it got negated, and the other times people just didn't want to try to even trigger it. But, you know, we have the 1 Dante just in case. I made Virgil about 3 or 4 times. Going into Virgil is actually surprisingly pretty good, because it just keeps making your opponent neg 1, and then when it gets dealt with, you draw. And that was also one of the times where when I summoned Virgil and it got hit with Torrential, Dante also got hit, Seer got hit, and I Traveler it on the end phase, and it was a wrap. 1 Break Sword, because I only own 1 Break Sword. It went into it 1 time in the tournament. Like, half the time I just didn't need to make any extra deck monsters that would just, you know, to deal with opponent's cards, because Fire Lake, Torrential, and the full Solemn package would just do it for me. 1 Muzz Rhythm, I never made it. I always preferred this over Acid Golem, because I still wanted a special summon, but I never made that either. 1 Triage Levia, because I just wanted some space. I never made that either. And the MVP for going into time was double Nightmare Shark. I wanted to bump it up to 3, but I don't own a 3rd one. Nightmare Shark would literally win me every single match when I would go into time, because it's free direct damage. It's a free 2k body. Your opponent could try and put some pressure on you, but you would flip like Torrentials and all that other good stuff, and then you would just make your next turn and just make another Nightmare Shark and do more direct damage, and your opponent can't recover from that. They can't put enough damage on board to outpace multiple Nightmare Sharks and bar burns for days. For the side deck, I think about 3/4 of it I use. 2 Heavy Dust Storms. I sided this in every single time, because either I was playing Pendulums or I was playing against decks I played back row, like Trick Stars, and I played against like 2 Counter Fairies. I played against again, the Altergeist player, a Hero player, and a what was his name? I don't know what the other deck. I think it was. Oh yeah, I think it was like Inspector Border Stun or whatever. But you know, that, I mean, it just took care of it. I just took care of all that stuff. The Kaiju package, you know, the Gamma Sealed Raiden, the Dogran, and the Slumber. I would slide this in against non-back row decks like the Pendulum player, just so I can alleviate just one disruption from either a Vortex or a Naruto, because I kind of needed those. 3 evenly matched, I sided them in every single time because I was playing against a lot of either Pendulums or back row decks, and yeah, that was it. And so evenly matched was always live. 3 Ash Blossom, because again, I was anticipating playing against a few back row heavy decks, and what do you know, I was right. And so Ash Blossom didn't really get sided in all that much at all, because the only, if any, it was against like the back row heavy decks I was playing Demise or something, just because I didn't want him to get the +2. And 3 Vanity Fiend, I never sided this in at all, even against a Pendulum player, because I just didn't need to. I didn't need to side it, because I had everything else, like, literally everything in the main deck will just beat them. Like, all the trap cards is just, you negate anything with Solemns, you Torrential, you Fire Lake, the Pendulum Grass, and the Scales, and it's just, they can't keep up. But anyway, I ran into a Burning Abyss player yesterday, and I showed him my deck, and I told him I went undefeated. And this, it was a 24-man tourney, so it wasn't really all that much people. There wasn't too many, but, you know, nonetheless, I didn't even have to go to Game 3 against the Pendulum guy. Strangely enough, I went to Game 3 against the damn Altergeist player, and now I'm just, you know, I had to keep picking up the cards like 3-4 times, and I had to keep reading them, because I just didn't know, I knew what some of them did, but I didn't know how the whole deck would function without, like, multi-faker. But, you know, that Magic Spectre Kieran of theirs plus Protocol is the most annoying combination of all time, like, for reals. And all the trap cards get, like, grave effects and stuff, too, so it's like, it's almost like Burning Abyss, but stunnier. It's like, oh, you deal with the trap cards and all that stuff, but they get grave effects, and they just keep recurring, and the monsters keep coming back, and they just save Carter Demise, and it's too much. You know, he was pretty good. You know, I actually think Altergeist might actually do something when we get multi-faker, because you just get the Kieran from the deck. But I ended up talking to a Burning Abyss player, and I showed him the deck, and, you know, and even he agreed that my whole extra deck was so subpar, but, you know, the fact is I didn't even need it. I didn't need it because I was playing Fire Lakes and all that stuff, but he was playing like Decode and Underclock Taker and all that stuff, and I'm like, and I asked him, you know, how are you playing Burning Abyss? Like, how are you doing this when you sit here and can't play anything else? And all he would do was just sit on like Decodes and keep bringing back Seer with Dante in hand, and he would keep pitching it to the grave, either by Beatrice or by some other means, and Seer would always hit the graveyard. He played multiple Phoenix Wing Blasts to keep pitching Seer, to keep bringing back Dante under Decode Talker, and he would like use tour guides and stuff to negate effects of other BAs, so he can keep stacking the board, and it was pretty good, you know. And I didn't think that BAs could play around not having other BAs besides Beatrice, because all you needed to do was sit on Beatrice and rack up advantage, but I was wrong. And, you know, I could try, you know, maybe I could try something like that. Maybe I can try, you know, playing some extra decks, and maybe I can max out on Cranes to make it to where having things like Decode aren't as much of a big deal. But, you know, he showed me some things, but again, it's been a year and a half since I played Burning Abyss anyway, and so I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. I just threw some stuff together and I winged it, because it's like, oh, just when in doubt, flood them out, you know, or just Fire Lake them, you know. Fire Lake still worked, and I wanted to play Fire Lake because half the time I knew I would come upon a situation to where nobody would just attack the Dante, and I would need ways to get Dante off the board so I can make more Dantes. And so I chose Fire Lake, and I chose Traveler so I can get my resources back, and it actually worked. So thank you guys very much. For those of you watching that are really good with BAs, You know, let me know what you guys thought about my subpar BAs. I can't even say that it was subpar because I just made a good meta call. I knew I was going to be played against trap cards all day, and or, you know, the format was going to be slower, which made trap cards deadlier, and the trap cards is really what's just been carrying me. And I knew nobody was going to side anything against Burning Abyss because, you know, people don't see Burning Abyss as a threat, and I never got cherries. But, you know, I just decided Fire Lake was the answer to back row, and it was. And I cited Heavy Dust Storms on top of that. But let me know what you guys think about the deck. And for those BA players out there, let me know what you guys think about the list. Rate the list if you're a BA player. You know, I was never like the best Burning Abyss player. I was never even really all that great, but you know, I understood, you know, how the combos can work. I just didn't understand the Link monsters integrated with it under Master Rule 4 if we didn't have Cherubini. But you know, it's whatever. I still made it work, and I managed to pull off a win. So thank you guys very much. This is J Money, and I am signing out.